Hello dear friends, I'm Dr. Mukesh Parik, and in this video I'm going to read in front of you the first sonnet of Shakespeare. You all know that Shakespeare has written 154 sonnets, and they are divided into three sections, where the two sections are quite controversial because in one section people say that researchers and critics say that part of sonnets were written for his patron, where he has been describing male beauty. And the other one, which is again arguably quite famous, about the Black Lady. So, but the first sonnet is world famous, and sometimes in my offline classes, when I teach students certain sonnets, I directly teach them from my book. You can see there, I have this compendium of Shakespeare in my hand. So, without wasting much time, let us start. From fairest creatures we desire increase, that thereby beauty's rose might never die. So, in the first two lines, Shakespeare says, the speaker in the poem, he says that from fairest creatures, those who are very beautiful, we desire increase. We want that they increase their progeny. It means you must do something. He's coaxing in a way or provoking his handsome patron to marry, because if he marries, only then thereby beauty's rose might never die. The first thing is like beauty's rose. The writer has used here a metaphor and has called that male handsomeness. Friends, sometimes I explain to my students that this distinction is quite new here in the modern English, that handsome word is used for males and beautiful word is used for females or women. Here in this line from Shakespeare's first sonnet, you can see that he's calling his male friend beauty. Okay, so I repeat the first two lines. From fairest creatures we desire increase, from that thereby beauty's rose might never die. So that beauty's rose might never die. It means that fresh youth you you are enjoying right now should increase day by day, because if you increase your progeny, if you marry someone, again you will have children, and then your beauty will be seen in those coming members of the family. But as the riper should be by time decease, his tender heir might bear his memory. Riper means the person who becomes ripe in his age or her age as the time passes. So he says that as the riper should by time decease, a time will come when the person who is living his or her life, he will die one day. His tender heir might bear his memory, but tender heir, H-E-I-R, heir means that the person who is the progeny of that person, he will bear his memory. It means people will remember you through your children. But thou, contracted to thine own bright eyes. Now he's accusing his patron that you are not marrying someone, you're not increasing your progeny. It means thou contracted to thine own bright eyes. It means you are the subject matter of your own eyes. It means you are just looking at yourself. You are not creating progeny. You are not increasing progeny. Feedest thy light's flame. You are consuming your own flame. Flame here has now multiple meanings. Flame can be beauty, brightness. Flame can be the lust. Flame can be the sexual power. Okay, with self-substantial fuel. Self-substantial fuel mean to say this is a fuel through which you can enlighten other. You can light the other, people by increasing your progeny. But if you are not doing that, it means you are consuming your own beauty. So you can understand that the subject matter is quite controversial and quite erotic also, because here there are multiple meanings of sometimes I explain to my students that beauty's rose in the second line can also have multiple meanings with certain erotic imagery. making a famine where abundance lies. Now he's again accusing that you are beautiful, handsome, abundantly. If you are beautiful abundantly, then why you are creating a famine? Famine means, now here you can see the paradoxical language. In the same line, the writer has used famine, and in the same line, the writer has used abundance. So this is the beauty of Shakespearean language, that he has created that paradox, that you can create a lot many progeny, but that power you have. Here he's also talking about sexual power. Here he's also talking about that you are so handsome that, you will get somebody, for marriage. But why you are not creating progeny? Why you are not, procrastinating? And that's why you have created a famine. Famine, you all understand, a sort of drought where, there is no yield, there is no, crop. Thyself, thy foe. Now he's accusing that you are a foe of yourself. Foe means enemy. You are your own enemy. To thy sweet self too cruel. You are cruel to yourself. It does not mean that you are cruel to anybody else. You are cruel to yourself. That art now the world's fresh ornament. Again, another metaphor writer has used and called his patron WH. His name was Mr. WH. He has called his patron world's fresh ornament. It means you are so beautiful, you are so handsome that you can be called a fresh ornament. And only herald to the gaudy spring. Now here there are multiple meanings of the word spring. Gaudy means beautiful, multicolored. Herald means someone who gives a prior information of someone. It means by looking at your beauty, you can see that erotic, homoerotic undercurrent in the poem somehow. And that's why, some critics have accused Shakespeare of, being a queer. Because you can see here quite visibly the writer is talking that, you are, but that can be in certain ages, because in India also we can see that there are two male friends, though they are not homosexual or gays, they can, go somewhere hand in hand, and people don't, doubt that they are homoerotic. So in the same way, I think somewhere critics are going in the extreme way by calling Shakespeare, a homosexual. But by looking at this line particularly, even I was suspicious, because, he's explaining in such a way like you are only herald to the gaudy spring. It means if you procrastinate, if you create your progeny, there will be a spring. Spring means there will be multicolored flowers will be there. It means, again, there is a hyperbole in the poem. In this first sonnet, you can see the writer is exaggerating that if you start producing children, if you once marry and then, you get children, then there will be so many children that there will be a spring. So that way he considers like, there are multiple connotations of this particular line, where the writer says that you are a herald. Herald means someone who gives a prior information to the someone who is some majestic person is coming. So the writer says that once you marry, you will create so many beautiful people like you. Within thine own bud buries thy content. Within thine own bud. Again, the writer in the second line called the patron beauty's rose, and here he's calling like you are a bud. Own bud buries thy content. It means in your own bud, a time will come when, this bud will become and blossom into a beautiful flower, will spread not only beauty but also, fragrance also. But if you don't procrastinate, if you don't produce progeny, then it means you're burying your own aroma, your own fragrance in that bud itself. It means somehow he's cursing him also, that if you don't produce progeny, ultimately that bud will die, that bud will wither away, and with that the possibility of coming of the next generation will go awry or will waste away. And then he says, and tender churl mak'st waste in niggarding. Niggard is a word like someone who is miser. So if you are wasting your youth, you are such a tender person, you are such a beautiful, handsome and soft person. Okay, so these words are also noticeable here. And you are a churl, again, a kind of abuse the writer is using for his patron. And why are you niggardly wasting your youth? Why don't you use it? So, friends, you can understand, like, if someone is asking, like, use your youth, again, is making a direct invitation to have sex with someone. Okay, but because the poem is again in a very in a stylistic manner, if I do the stylistic analysis of this poem, I come to know that the poem is written in a euphemism, a kind of euphemistic language, where the writer is using soft and not overtly pornographic words, but you can imagine the kind of ideas which are coming to us when we look at the word like beauty's rose. Then we come across bud, which can give a hint towards that male sexual organ and all. So some critics have said that this is a very overtly homosexual poem. Pity the world, and the last two lines, the couplet, the poet says, pity the world. It means again is going up to the extent of saying that why don't you pity on us? Like it means the writer is begging of do this with somebody, do this marriage, do something so that you can produce children. Pity the world, or else this glutton be. Glutton, like someone who just eats voraciously, hungrily. Okay, so if you don't produce children and you use your own beauty for yourself, again there is some homoerotic connotations are there in the poem. The implied meaning is quite sexual here, that if you don't use it, if you don't pity the world, then you're using it for yourself only. There can be, the writer is making some covert, hidden, some subtle references of having sex with the male, where that he will be wasting his energy and will not produce children that way. Clear? So the last line, to eat the world's due, you are eating world's due. Now there are two meanings of this particular phrase here. That one thing, like you have been given youth so that you can produce progeny for the coming generation, but you are using it for yourself. Now if someone is using one's youth for himself, don't you think like the writer must be talking about on one hand somehow is talking about, like the writer is using some other means of gratifying his sexual desire. Okay, so this is again something quite I'm unable to use that word in front of all of you, but here the writer is using some again very covert indicative vocabulary connotation, where the writer says that you are using your own youth for yourself by the grave and thee. You are preserving your body for grave. Ultimately, this is a very common phrase in all the Shakespearean canon, where he says that if somebody dies, ultimately worms will try his body. So ultimately you will die, you will be tried by the germs there, the maggots there in the grave, and ultimately you are using your own body, your own sexual energy, your beauty, your handsomeness for yourself. So this is what the whole poem was. So I just read it once more. Those some of you might be interested in that, and if you are interested, like I should come daily and read one poem of Shakespeare, particularly all the sonnets one by one, you can give some positive response here, by writing some comment and sharing the video and liking and subscribing. From fairest creatures we desire increase, that thereby beauty's rose might never die. But as the riper should by time decease, his tender heir might bear his memory. But thou, contracted to thine own bright eyes, feedest thy light's flame with self-substantial fuel, making a famine where abundance lies, thyself thy foe, to thy sweet self too cruel. Thou that art now the world's fresh ornament, and only herald to the gaudy spring. Within thine own bud buries thy content, and tender churl mak'st waste in niggarding. Pity the world, or else this glutton be, to eat the world's due by the grave and thee. Thank you very much, friends.